So one of the biggest use cases that now we're seeing is customers saying, okay, I have a million contracts, a million invoices, and I want agents to go and automate the workflows around that information. So we are executing at the rate of a startup right now at a faster pace than I've ever seen as a company. And we're grinding 24/7. We live and breathe and sleep AI. It's the most fun we've ever had as a company. And I think it's the most important moment for unstructured data and what now companies can do with it in the history of computing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of OPTO Sessions. Aaron Levie is back. Since the last chat, BoxWorks just dropped a new wave of launches: Box Extract, Box Automate, and Shield Pro. And Box's AI agents are now working across Microsoft, Anthropic, OpenAI to turn unstructured content into actual outcomes. Aaron, welcome back.
Hey, thanks. Good to be on again.
And are you calling from HQ today?
Yes, here in lovely California.
Nice. So 8 months ago, you said agents would move from demos to dollars. Coming out of BoxWorks, what's the best customer outcome you've seen from your AI agents?
Yeah, so for us, we live in a world where enterprises have just a tremendous amount of corporate data in the form of contracts and marketing assets and financial documents and invoices. And all of that data contains incredibly rich business information in them. But unless a person is sort of on a computer looking at a document, you're never really like pulling out the real insights from that data. And so what we've built is a set of tools that let you take AI agents and have those agents process that information and data at scale. So read through a document and extract kind of critical data points from that document. So in a contract, it might be financial information, and an invoice, it might be, who has to, pay you, the payment and what's the amount owed. In a research document, it might be all of the key terms that relate to that field of research. And so then later you can query it and synthesize that data. So all of our content has this rich information in it, and we've never been able to tap into it. And so AI agents finally let us unlock that. So one of the biggest use cases that now we're seeing is customers saying, okay, I have a million contracts, a million invoices, a million research documents, and I want agents to go and automate the workflows around that information. So this has been really the first year where that became available within our platform. And as you mentioned at BoxWorks, our customer conference, we announced a new capability called Box Extract that makes it very easy to use extraction agents at scale across your data to pull out all of the most relevant insights from that information.
Okay. And who are the users do you think are going to get the most value out of this? Are we talking about, like you mentioned, like lawyers that are looking through contracts?
So I would say kind of quite literally every job function in an enterprise, deals with unstructured corporate data. Some more than others, but every single job you're looking at some form of a document or a marketing asset or a PowerPoint or a PDF every single day of work. And so agents that can now bring automation to that type of work mean that every single worker will be in some way aided and enabled to have better productivity because of agents and because of agents on their data.
Mm-hmm. And so this intelligent content management obviously is a big part of your strategy going forward. What's the most misunderstood part of this strategy, would you say?
I think fortunately, there's actually a growing understanding of the strategy and what we're up to. We are incredibly excited about, how customers are recognizing the real value of this information. So we have more and more companies every single day coming to us saying, I have all of this data that we generate, and I if you think about any average enterprise, about 90% of their information, 90% of their data is unstructured. So think about structured and unstructured as structured data goes into a database. It goes into a CRM system or an HR system. Unstructured data is contracts and documents and marketing assets. It's all sort of messy, kind of more human readable data. And computers in the past have never been able to really process the 90% of data that we work with. You've never been able to ask all of that data a question and get an answer back. But AI and AI agents in particular let you finally do that. And so I think what's exciting for us is customers are starting to recognize all of the value that they're sitting on that now for the first time ever they can finally tap into. So that's actually kind of the recognition of that is actually increasing, and we're finding that customers are more and more excited by that and learning much more about what that could mean for their business.
Okay. And if you could paint a day in the life of, say, a sales rep or VP of marketing, something like this, what would Box agents do
Yeah.
overnight or something like this that changes how they perform their work next day?
Yeah. So for a sales rep, let's say, couple of quick examples. If one of the biggest challenges that every sales rep deals with is there's a bunch of best practices inside their organization, and they usually have to go talk to an expert in the company to get an answer about how they should do a certain task. And so what we have, though, is we have all of this information in an organization. We have white papers, we have marketing assets, we have sales materials that actually have the answers to those sales reps' questions. So what if for the first time ever, you could just ask a question of all of this data and get an answer back? That's now possible with AI agents. So we see a lot of customers that are collecting all of this information. They're creating knowledge hubs that let them then really turn all that unstructured data into real intelligence and business value. So that's a big use case. We're seeing a lot of people build custom agents to automate certain parts of a sales rep's workflow. So, one thing that you're often doing as a sales rep is you're saying, okay, here are the 50 customers that I have to go reach out to, and I want to be able to have personalized materials or personalized sales messaging for each of those customers. So you could build a custom agent within Box that takes those 50 company names and has a special message for each of them, and then produces that as content that then you can go and do your pitches with. So we're seeing AI really just accelerate the daily workflows of, again, almost every knowledge worker. It could be in sales, could be in marketing for collateral generation. It could be in product management for coming up and helping, create product specifications for new features. In engineering, it can help you review your code or even generate new code. So every job function we see as being, kind of aided and really kind of enabled by AI and AI agents.
And so in your platform, there's part of the feature set is that you can create your own agent somehow with some sort of easy functionality. Is that?
Yeah, so we make it very easy to build AI agents within Box. We could create a sales rep agent in less than 2 minutes if we wanted, that is sort of very tuned to our particular sales workflow and our data set. So customers are able to kind of generate these agents rapidly and then boost productivity as a result.
It's pretty cool. And you've obviously taken a sort of model agnostic approach. So you use OpenAI, Anthropic, Google. How do you decide which model handles which task? Is there a sort of secret to that, or?
Yeah, I'd say a limited secret. So what we do is we do evals on every model on what their capabilities are. So we know what models are better at data extraction. We know what models are better for searching for information. We know what models are better at summarizing or answering questions on data. And then within our product, we have some default experiences that align those models with the relevant use cases that a customer has. And then we let customers go in and build custom agents that override those model choices. So we will always let you select your own model for a use case, but we do have some defaults that are based on our benchmarking and evaluations that we do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what sort of controls how do you put controls in place for, agents, and how can they fail safely?
Yeah. For the most part, all agents that we have adhere to the security and governance controls that are already in Box. So one of the benefits of having your data in Box is that you set very clear access permissions and access controls for your data. So if you and I are sharing documents, I'm making those documents accessible to you. I can always revoke that access. And so if you have an agent that's created, that agent can only access the data that I've shared with you. Or that you've shared with me if it's your data. And so an AI agent within Box can't go off and find other information and answer questions about data you don't have access to.
Mm-hmm.
So it really adheres to those controls. And obviously over time, we're going to give customers more and more kind of granular controls on what do you want agents to be able to do on your data. Maybe some customers will want agents to be able to generate new data or move content around inside of folders, and other people maybe won't want that. And so we're going to give you that flexibility in our platform.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you also shipped a remote MCP server, ChatGPT connector, and an integration with Mistral's AI's LeChat. What
Yep.
does agent-to-agent interoperability unlock that point integrations couldn't?
Yeah, so the point integration challenge is that if you imagine every single AI system has to write to or learn about the APIs of every data system, then you just have this massive math problem. Let's say there's 100 or 1,000 AI agent companies, and then there's 10,000 software companies that have data. You're in billions and billions of permutations or more of how do you have to kind of wire up all those technologies. So what we are doing with Box is we make it very easy to create those agents, within Box, and then we make it easy for any external system to go and leverage the data within our platform. And so what MCP does is it lets an external agentic system or AI system talk to the data in Box without ever having seen our API before. So our MCP server effectively helps that AI system understand what tools to use within the Box environment. So we have hundreds or thousands of APIs within Box, but only maybe 10 or 20 are relevant to the common actions that an agent is going to do. And so we created an MCP server that effectively tells that agent what tools to use from Box and how to interact with our system and how to authenticate with it in a very seamless way. That's the power of MCP. So we're seeing more and more developers leverage MCP as a way of connecting into these environments.
And what's been more popular, the MCP approach into Box, or are people using just straight Box from a dashboard?
Yeah.
Sort of things.
Yeah, well, our MCP server is very new. It's less than 2 months old. So kind of our API integrations is probably the more prevalent use case so far.
Yeah.
But MCP, I think, will grow quite rapidly because it's increasingly becoming the standard for any AI developer to connect to a different system. So that will certainly increase over time for sure.
Mm-hmm. And what's the agent capability that you haven't shipped yet that you most want to exist?
Well, the dream state is what if you could really kind of give an agent any type of task that you need to be able to do with all of your data in Box or an entire workflow or project. So we can't yet do this because there's a number of ways where the agent will kind of run out of memory or working memory in the form of a context window. And it'll sort of fail out at certain points. But the task you want to be able to give is say, I'd like you to go analyze this company that I'm doing due diligence on. And I want you to take these 50 documents and I want you to generate a full due diligence report inside of a due diligence sort of shared workspace and then invite these people into it. And it'd be great if you could go and kick off that task and just know that with a high degree of likelihood that it'll be done effectively. And then you go take that data, maybe you share it with people and review it. That's kind of the dream state with AI agents. And we imagine that will be what the future of a lot of knowledge work looks like. We're very early right now, so we can't quite do all of that workflow yet, but it's coming. It's very much something that's increasingly plausible and possible with Box.
And so the main constraint for that is the context window at the moment. Is that what holds it back? You just can't get enough information in there for it to make the.
I think you have a mix of factors. So you have context window sort of as you use more of the context window, the quality of the kind of interaction goes down. So even if a context window says it has 1 million tokens, you can't use all million tokens in the exact same way as if you had only had 1,000 tokens. So you have a context window issue as you scale up. You have a capability of the model issue, which is, does the model know to do the right thing with each of the requests that the user has? And so this is this open question of, do you start to run into an issue of the agent starts to perform the wrong actions because its capabilities are not as skillful at processing a document or doing a search or using some kind of tool. So we need capabilities to go up within the models, and we need context window to go up in the models. If we can solve those two things, we can then basically begin to operate any kind of enterprise software system and be able to almost automate any kind of workflow in an enterprise.
That's crazy, isn't it? And what about like validating? Do you have steps which validate that the agent is performing a task in the right way or has come to the right conclusion in the task?
Yeah, so we do our own internal kind of evals on certain kind of data workflows, and the only challenge we actually have is that we'll create an eval, and then agents will saturate that eval. As in they'll most of our for our evals that we had 2 years ago, most AI systems can perform them at let's say 90% quality. So we have to now actually increase the difficulty of those evals to ensure that we're tracking with the latest capabilities. But yes, we're going to eval every new capability that emerges within AI, and then figure out how effective is it at working with the latest models and agent capabilities on your data.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And I had a question here. Just wanted to talk about the AI market more generally. I think this has actually surpassed this recently, but the top 6 public companies in the US have a combined market cap of over $20 trillion, which is incredible. Larger than the GDP of China, which is the
Wow.
world's second largest economy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Northman Trader, who showed me that the other day. So NVIDIA is obviously printing money selling chips. Microsoft and Google are burning tens of billions a quarter building infrastructure and models. Box sits on top of their tech to solve real problems. Where does the real money get made long term from your point of view? Is it the companies building AI or the companies actually using it?
I think I'm an optimist on this front. I actually think kind of all layers of the stack end up benefiting in some way. Clearly right now, pole position is NVIDIA. So you want to be NVIDIA over the past 5 years, because you've had control of the underlying margin structure of AI effectively, and you've had the raw material that everything needs. So you want to be NVIDIA starting out. I think being the hyperscalers that deploy the chips and have kind of relatively relatively kind of a relative stronghold on that set of chip supply chain. I think ends up being very helpful for the hyperscalers, because there's only 3 or 5 companies that really can scale out that set of chip infrastructure. So you want to be them. And then for the application providers, actually the model providers are obviously doing well. They're burning money because they're in many cases just in scale up mode. But I think there's unquestionably you'd want to be OpenAI and Anthropic, et cetera, of the past couple of years. And then I think now it's the application layer, because if you kind of just see that flow through, you have to get the chips created. They have to get into the data centers. The models have to use them. So that kind of represents the first kind of act of the infrastructure build out. Now at the application layer, we're finally at the point where enterprises can utilize AI across their business processes. So I think you're going to see that now value flow through at the software layer. And whether that flows into Salesforce and ServiceNow and Workday or Box, or goes to startups that are brand new, like a Cursor or something like that, you're going to see, I think, value creation happen really kind of across the ecosystem. But now I think is the point when you're going to see a lot of that value get generated at the application layer.
Yeah. And how quickly do you think these agents and improving the workflows, the AI is going to permeate through the biggest companies, enterprises? Are we going to see big changes over the next year, like that are going to influence how businesses operate?
And when you say the end corporations that are that are not in AI, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so enterprises using software like bots.
Yeah, I think it's gonna. First of all, I think we have to be somewhat realistic that it's going to be a multi-year journey. The change management in a large enterprise is non-trivial. Getting people to use a new set of tools in a new behavior. If you think about, let's say there's sort of a 2x2 of behavior change and tool change that occurs when you're adopting something. For a lot of the past 10 to 20 years of software, we didn't really have behavior change. We just had tool change. So I upgraded from a chat system to Slack. I upgraded from Word to Google Docs. I upgraded from on-premises files to Box. So that was a tool change. What we have here is behavior change, which is the way I actually interact with software is totally different. I'm no longer doing all of the work myself within software. I'm actually interacting with effectively AI labor on the other end, which is a total behavior change of how do I actually leverage software. So you have tool and behavior change. That represents obviously a much more transformational thing that is going to occur because of the behavior shift. But it does mean that it can take longer, and it can be harder to go and actually execute that, which means there's more change management. There's more that you have to re-engineer your workflows to get the benefit of agents. You have to retool some of the ways that you're operating. That does matter a lot.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like Box is extremely well positioned to because it has access to all this data that other platforms don't have access to. Because you control that data side, there's a huge increase in value to enterprises from the advances in AI, that they can utilize this data in a much more effective way, and nobody
Yeah.
else or very few other people have direct access to it.
Yeah. So fortunately, we've spent now about 2 decades building and earning the trust of enterprises to manage their most important unstructured data. And if you think about all of the things that go into managing data in an enterprise, you need security, compliance, governance. You need to be able to, you have to have a lot of scalability. We have to have open APIs. We have to integrate with all of our customers' data environments. So that's what we spent now nearly 2 decades doing. That is the price of entry into being able to do AI on data. And so we're in a position now where we benefit from all of that work that we've done. And now we can actually get more of these use cases on your information as a result of all the work that we put in over the years to be able to work with this information. So I think it is a big moment for being able to use your data, and thus I think a big moment for us.
Mm-hmm. And just touching on some of the financials, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Q2 revenue is up 9%. RPO, so that sort of represents future revenue, up 16%. Can you just decode that for us? Where's the increase come from? Is it seat growth, longer terms, AI related deals?
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing a lot of the benefit of AI right now, where customers are saying, I need to have a modern platform to be able to deploy agents on my enterprise information. I need a platform I trust. I need a platform that's secure. I need it to be able to work with all of my unstructured data. And so that's causing customers to now really drive an upgrade cycle into our most advanced features and our most advanced capabilities. We have a new plan called Enterprise Advanced, and it has all of the core functionality of our agent builder. It has something called Box Apps, so you can build custom applications. We launched a new capability called Box Automate and Box Extract. So you'll be able to automate workflows with your unstructured data and do data extraction. Both of those become available in Enterprise Advanced. So that's really causing the recent upswing on the revenue growth, and we're super excited. Obviously, we're going to keep just doubling down on those initiatives.
And just a couple more questions, Aaron. We've got one. So net retention was 103% last quarter, which obviously represents as possible because you're increasing the value of clients you've already got. That's why I can get another. How is Box able to? I mean, it's incredible numbers. How is Box able to achieve that? What's the number one thing you think that helps you achieve such high numbers in retention?
Yeah, I do think it's the stickiness of the platform and the stickiness of these use cases. So I think by virtue of, again, being able to leverage AI on your unstructured data, it's causing our customers to have more advanced use cases on our system, which is great. That's going to obviously increase stickiness over time and allow our customers to do even more with our functionality.
Mm-hmm. And why does Box have the structural advantage to become a 10, 20, $30 billion company over the next few years?
Yeah, I think it's really because, without commenting on any specific valuation, I think the structural advantage we have in general that we think will drive continued results is we are living in an era where your data is the most important context for AI. So AI agents need to know about your workflow and your business process. It needs to know about your business and how your enterprise functions. And so to get that AI to agents, you need a set of systems and tools that make that very easy to do and make it secure and make it well governed. And so we're in a position where we're one of the only platforms that can do that at scale with all of this critical business content that drives how agents operate. So that's I think why we're in a very strong position, and we are executing at the rate of a startup right now at a faster pace than I've ever seen as a company, and we're grinding 24/7 on making sure we have all of the most updated functionality for our customers. We live and breathe and sleep AI. We're, fortunately right in the middle of Silicon Valley. So we get to kind of work with all the AI vendors. We get to see what's happening across the industry. It's the most fun we've ever had as a company. And I think it's the most important, moment for, again, unstructured data and what now companies can do with it in the history of computing.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time to be alive, I think. And
Very.
but yeah, thank you so much for your time, Aaron. I know you're a busy guy, so it's been great to chat again and also touch on a lot of these new advances in technology at Box.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally appreciate the time.
And for just before we go, for our community, if you have one skill for them to learn this quarter, what would that be?
I would honestly just spend as much time with these AI tools as possible. You're gonna learn so much more by using these technologies versus sort of hypothesizing about them. So if just spending more time in AI, pushing the limits of what these kind of AI agents and AI platforms can do, I think will very much be a very it'll both prepare you from either a career standpoint or trading standpoint or just understanding the world of AI. But again, you'll have such a deep understanding of this ecosystem and industry, far more than any other way to get that information.
Cheers, Aaron. Well, it's been a great
Cool.
time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.